Welcome to You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Nothing feels as good as listening to your own voice, and each week we have conversations to help you do just that. Get comfy, grab your favorite fun drink, and let's dive into this week's episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the season finale of season 3 here on You Can Trust Yourself podcast. It's so bittersweet to be recording the last episode of season 3. It feels so good to be here with you all again and have this, show where we all can come and just nurture our ability to trust ourselves and be with each other for an hour a week. And it also feels really sad because we're going to take a few weeks off and get ready for season 4. But overall, we have had so much fun doing season 3. We are Christmas ready right now, as you can see by our crazy hats that we're trying to somehow fit over headphones, which really isn't working, but we'll leave them on for another minute for this intro, and then I'm going to be removing mine eventually. Maggie, how do you feel that it's the end of season 3?
Oh my gosh, I feel similarly to you. I'm excited, but also sad, because I'm excited that 10 episodes, we did it again. Look at us go. So proud, And for all of the trustees who have been listening, it is just so lovely to have this community around again. I'm also excited for a little break. So something different that we're doing now that we didn't do in the past. In the past, when we were the Meg Maggi podcast and then Becoming Intuitive, we literally recorded every single week for 2 years. And so we are trying to give ourselves built-in breaks so that way we don't burn out, because we are wise now.
We are wise. She is wise is the Jeopardy question answer.
Yes. So we are wise. And so I am excited for a little break because I know that will leave me longing to come back, and I'll be really excited about it.
Yes. There's something always great about a break. And it's one of those things that we need them, right? And the listeners, trustees listening, remember, if you are listening, you're a trustee. That is your name by default from the You Can Trust Yourself community name. But it's always so nice to have breaks, no matter what it is. And as passionate you are about something, it can be so hard to walk away from something for a little bit when you feel so passionate about it and you love it so much. It's I don't really want to, take a few weeks off. And I know that we will be so refreshed and feeling so ready and buzzing with excitement and energy to pour into season 4.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. And I'm not going to lie, the hats, it's kind of growing on me a little bit. It fits okay, and I might just...
I'm into it. I'm going to take mine off. Mine's squeezing my head because mine is... Okay. I have learned that I have a very large head. I've always known that. And this hat is reminding me that my head is in circumference a lot bigger than this hat right here. So
I did get a size large hat, and I don't have a size large head. My head is pretty small. But that was the only size large had the cute snowflakes. So I got a big hat, and so it's working out for me with the headphones.
I really love it, and it looks phenomenal on you. So if you could leave it on, please.
Okay, I will.
It looks really great. This is our Christmas show, everybody. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. If you celebrate, don't celebrate, whatever you may be celebrating, we are ready for the cozy vibes, and we hope you all are as well too. For today, we are going to be diving into a little bit of a season 2024 recap, whatever we want to share that may be helpful for you as the listener to hear us discuss. And then also, we have some really just important quality updates in the present moment that we were having a conversation. This is how it always happens. We were having a conversation before we hit record, and we were like, why are we not recording this? This conversation is worthy for others to hear. Just like when we hear others communicate, we're like, it's just nice sometimes to hear people communicate about the topics that are important, but oftentimes rarely discussed. And so we were having one of those, and we are going to let you all in on that. I know that the next question is, what's the fun drink of the day? And I don't have a fun drink of the day. I actually don't even have a fun drink, period, everybody. I have water with lemon. I know, I looked in my fridge. There's nothing besides coffee, and I do not need coffee right now.
Did you already have coffee?
I had coffee.
Yeah.
I already had lots of coffee, so I cannot have another coffee, but my water with lemon is going to have to suffice. It is, however, in a new fun water bottle.
Ooh,
Yes, I'm calling
cute.
this my nighttime water bottle
Okay.
because my straw cup ones I tend to spill all over me when I'm trying to drink it in bed. I know. I know.
I'm
I know.
sorry. That
I know.
sucks. Oh my gosh, that's so
So
funny.
now we have a flip top one so that I don't go to bed soaking wet in water from trying to drink it and staying
That's
hydrated.
good.
But Maggie,
That's very
you
good.
probably have a fun drink of the day or two or three. So what? I've been wanting to try that drink.
You gotta try it. So good. Okay, so I feel like all of my fun drinks have been poppy because
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. But this is the holiday cranberry fizz flavor. And I actually love it. And Cause loves it too. So we got it at Target and we went back recently and got like boxes of it because he's like, I
I
love that.
need that. I love cranberry drinks. Oh my gosh, I'm going to find that ASAP.
Yeah, I really like it. So that's my fun drink of the day, plus water.
You look like a freaking thumbnail. Hold on, everybody.
Am I
We're
an
still gonna.
ad? It's
I'm
not an
taking
ad,
your
but it could
picture.
be an ad.
Please smile. Poppy, come talk to us soon. Maggie is obsessed, and I want to be obsessed with this cranberry fizz one that I have yet to try.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I love how I audibly gasped, like, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you get it. But those of you who are listening, you're probably like, what happened to her? Maggie pulled out a beautiful cranberry fizz. Okay, let's set the scene. If you're not watching on YouTube and you're driving, this is worth me telling you. Maggie has on a like beautiful cherry red shirt, a Santa hat. I have on a crisp red, like Big Apple red sweater. And then she pulled out this beautiful holiday can, and we're just like a Christmas ad in a catalog.
Yes. Well, we have to get into the holiday spirit somehow. I don't know about you, but my holiday spirit is like lacking a little bit this year. I feel like sometimes it's really easy for me to be like, yes, Christmas, I'm so excited. And
Mm-hmm.
this year I am very excited, but it's just like a little bit more of a struggle. And I don't like that. Like, I want to be overwhelmingly excited about
Mm-hmm.
Christmas.
We're both in that similar season, and that's part of the thing we wanted to talk about today is that is normal from time to time, right? And so I was feeling that way. I still am in some ways, but I think this is worth it to unpack for what you're saying. I noticed a few weeks ago, probably the beginning of December, honestly, I was really dipping into like a low slump of a place. And not like the cute, like, oh, I'm just a little bit sad. No, no, no. Like the getting up in the morning is getting hard. I just kind of want to like stay in bed. I'm having a hard time like doing the day-to-day things. And I was like, okay, like this is something that like I need to pay attention to, right? So did a few things to make sure that my wellness is still, it's so funny how really quickly our wellness, if we realize that we're not doing the things that make us feel whole, how quickly it catches up to us. Like nowadays, the things that used to just be like, oh, I'll do a workout class or I'll take my vitamins here and there. Like at the ripe age of, I know I'm young and whatever, but like 27, I can't just like mess around and like not do those things anymore. I have to maintain wellness to be able to show up for myself, my clients, my life. Like please comment, talk, slide in our DMs. Do you feel this? Because I cannot be the only one. I cannot get by anymore like I used to. I have to truly nurture myself in order to just get to baseline Maggie. Not even like exceedingly high functioning. I have to nurture myself very heavily and take care of myself to get to like baseline functioning as a human being.
I get that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get that.
If we both get that, our trustees must get that too then.
I think that I go through. Okay, so for me, wellness has always been something that I've highly prioritized. It is literally my job. And so when it's that much in the front of your mind, it's a little bit easier to prioritize it because it's your normal everyday, right? It's like what I teach people about. It's what I help people with. So it's a little bit easier. But with that also comes what's the right word? It makes me forget sometimes that doing those things is important, kind of like what you're saying,
Mm,
right? Like I take them for granted, I guess we should say,
yes,
right? So then when I
yes.
go through a season where it is more challenging to do them, it takes a little while, but when it catches up to me, I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing all those things that I usually do. And that's why I feel like absolute crap.
Yes.
And it takes a little while to realize sometimes. And sometimes I catch it right away, which is great. The sooner that I can realize that I'm not taking care of myself in the best way, the lower impact it has over the
Mm-hmm.
course of time,
Mm-hmm.
right? But sometimes I take for granted what I had been doing that I am not doing at this moment. And it makes it challenging sometimes to realize what is wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like this is just in general, not just about being a professional in the field, but it's easy to get overwhelmed with how many things that you're doing. And you're
Mm.
like, oh, I'm going to take supplements, I'm going to work out, and I'm going to walk, and I'm going to take a bath, and I'm going to take an ice bath and a hot shower and a cold shower and go to bed. And it's like all these things. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm just going to stop doing it all. And you don't realize like which
Yes.
of the things were actually impactful. Like there's just so many layers to it. So, oh, hi, Dougies. They just want to be part of the show. But you don't realize what is impactful and what is not. And then it just feels like a whole mess sometimes, you know? And right now, I'm not in 100% full mess phase, but it is a little bit more challenging to get to baseline right now, too. I agree with that.
I am so sorry if you hear my dogs. I'm trying so hard to mute on my end and it's not working. They're going to get it together in a second. That is such a feeling, right? And I think so many people can relate to that, that when we stop doing all the things, we feel it so quickly. And I want to really normalize how hard it is to do all of the things, right? Just doing all of the things
Yes.
sometimes feels too hard. And that's why it happens. Because sometimes we get, okay, this is a feeling, and I'm sure people are going to be like, yes. Sometimes I'm burnt out from trying to do the wellness.
Oh,
The
yes,
wellness. I'm calling it the
absolutely.
wellness. It's its own category. When for you and I, it's essential because of our careers, right? I'm in mental health,
Mm-hmm.
you're in physical health, which are connected. It's health, right? We're in the health field, right? And we
Yeah.
specialize in different areas, but like both of those are critical to do our jobs, which means that for us, we have to maintain optimal well-being for the most part, right? And so when we're
Yes.
not in, I can't show up. I can't even tell you how many days that like I'll go to get on with clients for therapy, and I'm like, God, some days I wish I was an accountant. Do you know what I mean? Or something where I just like went into like a
Yes.
cubicle and like my mood doesn't affect others, my transference doesn't affect others, because it takes a lot of energy to have to sustain a good mood and wellness and all the things, right? So some days it's rare, but on the days that I'm really feeling like I'm having a hard time, sometimes I'm like, oh, so I wish that I didn't have to do this right now. And it's not because I don't love my clients. It's not because I don't love my job. I want to show up for them. And the thing is that I think that they deserve me in an optimal state of wellness, not perfection, or they don't need me to be perfect by any means. However, my clients need me to show up well because I'm there for them and their wellness. So my level of needing to function at needs to be higher than the average person. Right. And so, what
Mm-hmm.
we can normalize, though, for listeners who aren't in the health field and don't need to necessarily maintain that optimal level, we still feel the effects of it very quickly. And so, something that I'm really focusing on now and for the year coming up, I'm calling 2025 the year of health for our family and my life. Yeah, year of health. And it's come from a place of necessity and not so much like a luxury, like, oh, I'm going to do this because it's trendy and it's fun and like I want to look hot. It's like, no, I just need to function, and like it's a necessity. Right. And so I'm really looking at like collectively life as a whole of like, how do I make it less of a thing? How do I make it that it's just simpler to do? So I know that comes into like habits and habit stacking and swaps, just things that are mindless that I don't have to think about. If I go in my fridge, right? And little by little, each time that I go to the grocery store, maybe I switch out one of the condiments for a cleaner condiment. I need that, Maggie, because I can't do the overhaul of life, which is what I tried and do. So, any trustees who are listening to this, please tell us, do you ever do this? Because I do this too often. It's like my old mindset, and then newer, like wiser Meg kicks in, and she's like, you don't have to do it like that, Meg. But old Meg and the way I used to do things is still like, no, 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 but we have to do everything right now at 100 miles an hour, or it's not going to mean anything. So tell me, as a trustee, do you notice that you're feeling like crap? Notice that you're tired? Notice that you're lethargic? Notice that your clothes maybe you're tight or whatever it may be. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have to overhaul my entire existence. And then just the thought of overhauling your entire existence makes you too tired to even start overhauling your entire existence.
Me, I'm the
Okay,
trustee.
I can't be alone in that, right?
Yeah, no, I think that it's more normal than we feel, right? Like we feel like we're alone in that. And I think it can probably show up differently for different people, but I feel like it's the same baseline feeling of overwhelm,
Hmm.
right? And like I'm not capable of handling it all, regardless of how it shows up. I'm very similar to you, where for me, I have to do it all right this moment. Like if I don't do everything this second, it was all for nothing. It doesn't count. It's not
Right.
going to work. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
true, right? And I also, my wiser side eventually comes out and is like, hey, so I don't know if you remember, but we tried this before and it didn't
Yeah.
work, and it's just not actually possible to even do that, and you will see results if you just slow down for a
Mm-hmm.
second, you know. And so I feel very similar to that. And having that ability, whether it's your ability to coach yourself, or you have a friend or a family member or a coach who helps you with those things, that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, right? It's amazing to be able to get to that point of changing the way that we're looking at it, but it doesn't make it any less exhausting in the moment when you're having those
Yes.
thoughts, right? You still feel exhausted. You still feel overwhelmed. You still feel like you're not capable. You still feel like you're not good enough. You still feel like you
Yeah.
can't do it, even when you get to that point of being able to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out, right? And so it's normal to have that experience, I think. And it's also, we should normalize moving through that and towards the
Yes.
action taking phase as
Yes.
well, right? We don't want to sit in like, oh, poor me, I'm overwhelmed because of this like normal human experience. And at the same time, are you not going to do anything about it? Like, of course, we're going to do
Mm-hmm.
something about it. So it has to be
Mm-hmm.
both, you know?
And it's so easy with what you're saying to also get trapped in the mindset. A common thing that, we as humans tend to do sometimes is like, I'll do it when, right? And so that's such a common thing. Like after this very heavy work season, then I'll start going to the gym, or I'll start doing it after this, or I'll start doing it when my kid is this age or whatever. And we do that intentionally because we think that we have to do it like that, when really, if we would look at our lives in small micro pieces, the action becomes easier. And that's what I'm working on. This is not what I'm an expert on. I know how to trust myself. Okay. That we can do, and we continue to nurture our abilities to do that. That's where you come to hear me talk. That is my bread and butter, baby. Okay. Micro habits and learning how to sustain wellness. I am an infant learning how to do that. And this is really interesting. We're probably going to get to this soon. Maggie and I have been talking about this. I'm not going to share, Maggie, what you're going to share, because it's so like, oh, it's so good and like juicy and human that like Maggie needs to share it. But when you're on this journey of like self development and learning about yourself, you're always learning something new. And in some areas, you may be more advanced. And in others, you're like, I know nothing. I don't know how to sustain long-term health. I just don't. I'm I know that there are many steps I can take to get there, and I know that I need to stop judging myself for not having it all figured out right now, and I need to just let those steps keep going. I need to just keep taking another step. And I need to freaking enjoy the process of it. That's life to me. That's wellness to me. That's well being, is enjoying the process of figuring out what makes us feel our best. Because I think that's something that I'm learning recently, and really, my clients have really helped me realize this too. That, like, when you start, obviously with me in a therapist seat, like, I have such a strong desire for my clients to reach their version of wellness. Not my version, not anybody else's version, their wellness. What makes them feel well and whole and human, right? It's not absent of pain, it's not absent of struggle. It's usually a human experience is what most people like collectively land on. And I want for them so badly for them to experience feeling good as often as possible. And so when I think about that for them, I'm like, well, I deserve that too. I deserve to feel as good and as whole and as human as often as possible. Will that still mean there's messy, weird days? 100%. But how do I move towards it? Makes me think of your article, Maggie. Maggie is a fantastic article, like moving toward health. Like, it's such a special phrase of like, it's more encouraging than when I picture this avalanche of all the shit I have to do. And then I like crumble under the avalanche because let me tell you, I do that constantly in so many areas of my life. I'm like, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then I feel like an avalanche falls on top of me. And I'm like, actually, I'm really tired. I think I'm just going to take a nap and let's just forget it. Forget I said all that because I'm too tired
So
now that
relatable.
like I can't even think about what I was talking about because I'm too tired thinking about it all.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so relatable. So I want to ask you, so since we're not going for the avalanche into
Mm-hmm.
2025 and 2025 is the year of health, what are two or three like main areas of
Yeah.
health that you want to
I
focus
love
on?
that. I love that question. Thank you for asking me that. And it's interesting because my husband and I last night made a list of health when we think of like year of 2025 health. This list has like 50 things on it, okay? And
Of
thousands
course.
upon thousands of dollars on the list, right? I can't go out tomorrow and check off this entire list. First of all, I'll have zero money and a ton of debt because it's such a hefty list. And I can't sustain the things from the list right away. So we actually were thinking that too of like the top three. Like, what are some really important ones? One of them for me is sleep. I really want to maximize my sleep lately and long term because I feel like everything rests, like, no pun intended, like, everything rests upon quality sleep. So everything that I'm going to be doing, if I wake up with like a sore back and neck every day, like that's nothing is going to be fun from that. And so we're really looking into like possibly investing in a mattress. Maggie told us about her like Rolls Royce of a mattress that now I don't want to buy, but you know, I may have to for quality. Just kidding. Quality sleep is one of them. Another one for me is my own mental health, just making sure that I'm feeling as good as possible, whatever that may mean for me. To be super vulnerable because I enjoy when people are super vulnerable on podcasts, and I want to be too. I have felt better over the last couple of years on my anxiety medication, and back in August I went off of it, like just thinking like, oh, let's see, you know, how it goes. And I don't want to see how it goes. I like my anxiety medication. And
You saw how it went,
yeah, I
and
saw
that's
how
it.
it went
That's
and
all
I
we
was
need to
like,
see.
no, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I like a little low dose anxiety med. So my own mental health, especially as seeing clients, like that really has to be up there. And then also for me, the movement component and the physical, which you probably were asking for more specific things, but I gave you the broad ones. Um,
No?
just those, when I think of health, I think of so many different things: spiritual health, financial health, emotional health, mental health, physical health. And last year was my year of romance, which about half the year was like wedding season. I had a phenomenal time doing that. For a little recap, I want to romanticize health this year. How do I make that fun in my lifestyle to where it doesn't feel like a chore? How do I find a smoothie recipe that I absolutely fall in love with and can't wait to have? You know, so those are some of my big ones, is incorporating health into my life to where it feels like Meg and it feels like something that I want to sustain, not because I'm told I'm supposed to sustain it. Does that
I love
part?
that. Yeah. I There was no intention with like the specificity of your focus in the question. And I kind of like that it's broad because I think that sometimes when it comes to health, we can dial it down a little bit too specific
Mm.
and then we miss things sometimes, right? But you may feel like, oh, sleep and mental health and movement, those are too big of categories. Like, that's too big. It's not, because like you said, there's so many other things, right? Just some things coming off the top of my head. It could have been a really big like nutrition focused year. It could have been a really big supplement focused year. It could be a really big blood work focused year. It could be a really big like
Mm-hmm.
anything, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
so many different things that you could be focusing on, but those are the three that you're choosing right now. And there's room for those to change if you feel
Yeah.
like you want it to ebb and flow,
Yeah.
change, right? And so it's lovely. And I love that you have those focuses, because otherwise we get really all over the
Yes.
place, right? And I think that, we've talked about this a lot. We have New Year's episodes up the wazoo. Like, go back and listen to them. I think they're all titled the same thing, although the episodes are different. It is New Year, New Me is
Yeah.
bullshit. And we can get wrapped up in it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. I have to know exactly what I'm going to
Yes.
do. And it's more that we just need an
Yes.
intention, right? It's not always about the details. Sometimes it's about the details, but it's not always about the details. It's mostly about the
Yes.
intention.
The intention is everything, because when we think of goals, a lot of times we've been sold the necessity for it to be specific. And in a lot of ways I understand that, right? We do want things to be specific sometimes because it can be really helpful. And Maggie, I think hearing you say back what I was saying, I think my true intention for the year is everyday wellness. How do I sustain wellness on an everyday basis? Not that every day needs to be perfect, or I need to hit this exact amount of protein, or I need to, only eat this many carbs or walk this many steps. I want to feel well every day, right? And of course, there's going to be the one off days where I don't, and that's okay, right? And so for me, if I set the intention of I want to be at this exact weight by this time next year, well, what happens if my everyday wellness has me weighing less than that? Or a pound more than that, or 10 pounds more than that, but I feel freaking phenomenal, right? So the intention of the everyday well-being is really where I'm heading. And it's making me curious for you, like not so much a goal, but like what we were talking about before. Like, if you don't mind sharing with some of the listeners what you were saying to me. So basically, Maggie, please share it, but I'm just going to give it like a little intro. We were talking before we got on here, just like friends, chit chatting, planning the episode, whatever. And Maggie said something. And it like stopped me in my tracks, and my listening ears were up. And she told me that she felt like she was back in middle school. And now I'm not going to say anything else. I want you to explain your journey back to middle school, because it is such an important thing for us all to listen to.
Well, thank you. Um, I haven't shared this that much because I'm very much moving through it. So I'm sure when we come back for season 4, I'll have a little bit more perspective on how it's going. But yeah, I feel like I'm in middle school
Mm-hmm.
again, and there are a couple things playing into that. So this year was one of the most challenging years that I've had in a long time. And it makes me reflect and look back on, how I was talking about how I'm not really in the Christmas
Mm-hmm.
spirit. Like, it's been like
Mm-hmm.
challenging to get in the Christmas spirit. It makes me look back on last year and how just like vibrant and excited I was. And I'm like, oh, wow, I appreciate that so much more now. And I'm excited to experience that again one
Mm-hmm.
day, even though I'm not experiencing it right now. Um, so this year there were a lot of identity changes this year. It started with a lot of struggles with my profession. I was coaching sports, and it was a lot harder than it ever should be for
Mm-hmm.
anyone. And I'll just leave it at that. So I quit. And I have not quit forever. I know I will be back to coaching sports one day, but for right now, I could not go back to the situation that I was in. And that was the first big change in my identity that happened this year. After that, very shortly after that, I found out that one of my dogs had
Mm.
lymphoma and he would probably only survive a few weeks. And so I spent a lot of time over the summer taking him to, we did decide to get chemotherapy and like try the treatments because the doctor said that, you know, a lot of dogs had a lot of success with them. And we felt like it was important for us to try. And so I spent a lot of time taking him to the vet, which was about an hour and a half away, making food, like all of that. And then while he was still very sick, I found out one of my other dogs had a heart tumor and was also not going to live very long. And then they both ended up passing away within the same week. This whole time, I was still doing a whole other big part of my career, which was doing like corporate coaching, I guess is the best way to explain it. My husband and I own some businesses, and he is a big part in running his brother's businesses. And I was helping doing coaching with the team for productivity and sales and all of that stuff. And after the dogs passed away, I knew at that point that doing that work was not what I wanted to be doing. I love coaching people and I didn't want to do it in that way. I felt like I didn't have anything more to give. I had been working with this team for over 2 years. We made a ton of progress and I just felt like I didn't have any more to
Mm-hmm.
give. And so I resigned from that. And then afterwards, I there was about a 2.5 month, 3 month period where I experienced so much grief from all of that loss that I felt like my brain could not
Mm.
function. Like literally my husband would come home and I couldn't hold a
Mm.
conversation with him. And I would be in the middle of saying something and just completely forget what I was going to say. Like you know how that
Yeah.
happens sometimes, but it was like all the time. I had such severe brain fog that I could not function. Like I don't think I could have worked even if I
Mm.
wanted to. And while I was in it, I knew that it was bad, but I have a very like positive mindset predisposition. I think it's partially just who I am and it's very
Mm-hmm.
learned, right? Like in the field that I'm in. And so it was very challenging for me to recognize and understand that this was a big deal. Like this was like a big problem. This wasn't just like a little
Yeah.
hiccup, right? And so I really struggled with that. And I just kept pushing to be better, if
Mm.
that makes sense, right? It's like I just want it to be over. I just want to be better. I don't want to be sad anymore. I want to be able to work again. I want to be able to think. I want all of that. And I was just pushing, pushing, pushing. And sometimes I think we get put in situations that we don't want because there's something that we have to
Mm.
learn. And for me, where I'm at right now and through the reflection period that I've been able to have up until this point, the reason why I say I feel like I'm in middle school again is because I feel like my lesson to learn right now is that I don't have to sprint 24/7 through life, through every single thing that I do to survive
Mm.
anymore. And up until this point, I've really felt like I I have to work to survive. Like there's so much instability, and whether it was financial or where I was living or anything in my life, it could have been job instability. Up until recently, all of that was very real for me. And now that is not the case. I'm so grateful and fortunate that, you know, Cosmos and I, we've put in years of work for the ability for me to not have to work right
Mm.
now. And I'm so grateful for that. And it is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever
Mm.
experienced in my life because I know nothing other than like how to
Mm.
survive. I don't know what it's like to live in a state where I know that our bills are going to be
Mm.
paid. because I manage all of our finances and I know that the bills are going to be paid. Like I don't have to like stress about that. I know that I have an incredibly supportive partner and I have someone who loves me so much and I don't have to worry about that. And so I'm so incredibly grateful for those things and I feel really blessed for them and I've worked really hard for them. And it's what I've wanted this whole time. This whole time I've wanted to be like out of this survival mode, out of this instability. And now I'm here and I'm like, wait, I don't know. I don't know if this is actually what I want. Can you take it back? I'm so uncomfortable. Right. And so it's been like this culmination of all of these things. And this year really felt like a storm. And right now, I feel like I'm in middle school again, except this time I have like financial and emotional stability. And I'm like reparenting myself and trying to refigure out how to be and how to live. And it's a little smelly and a little uncomfortable. And I know I have friends, but it kind of feels like I'm all alone all over again,
My God.
you know?
I have
so that's where I'm at.
I have like body feelings. Like I feel your story and everything you just said on like a body level. And I'm so appreciative to know you, right? As a friend first and a co-host second, but also that you have the vulnerability and beautiful voice to deliver to us your story right now and where you're at. Like this is where you truly are. Like this is your truth. And it is so special for you to let us in to hear that because we oftentimes, I think, go through it like middle schoolers where we feel like we're alone in whatever that journey or struggle may be. And the truth is that we're very much not alone. And in the moments that doesn't help because we still feel like we are. So thank you for sharing that with us, Maggie. I love your middle school self right now. Like
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am very uncomfortable with my middle school self right now, but I'm also sending her so much love. I feel like for me, knowing I have that support is so important. And I was actually talking with my therapist about this yesterday, but I need to use it more, right? Like I am so used to just having to figure out everything by myself. And I know that that's not the case anymore. Like I don't have to pick this all up and carry it by myself all of the time, right? There's so many things that are ours to figure out, right? Like I shouldn't be putting burdens that are truly mine on other people. And there are things in life, which I'm realizing that this time in my life is one of those things where I can't do it all by myself.
That
I just can't.
I want to like scream with joy and anger at that statement. Okay? I want to scream with joy and anger at the exact fucking same time. Because I'm so sorry, I'm getting a little like explicit here. Again, there's a little E on this podcast. Remember, don't have your little ones in the back. Or if they curse, I like you. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Whatever idiot started the freaking thought or notion that we could do it all, I want to like, I'm not going to say violent things, so I'm not going to, but like, who put that into the universe? What individual or group or people, and I have some theories, but that's a podcast for another time. That's a different show at a different time. Why did that ever come into our little beautiful middle schooler minds that we could do it all? Who let us believe that fake narrative? And hold on, the people who do it all, right? The people, the individuals, the single parents, the cultures who have always had to do it on their own because they couldn't have it within community, the individuals who just have never had another choice but to survive, people who have moved to this country, just every people, marginalized people, humans, everybody. But the people in particular who truly had to be in survival mode, who sold us this belief that we could do it all and be happy? Okay? Because I know the people who have had to do it all and it comes at a high cost. Usually comes at a cost to their health, usually comes at a cost to their mental health, usually it comes at some kind of very, 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 very heavy taxing cost to do it all yourself. So who the fuck sold us this message that we could do it all and be super happy and like sexy and cool and like fun and like successful and like have a clean house and a beautifully decorated tree and kill it at work. And I'm just going on the soapbox now, but like, who made us think that we could do all of these things really, really well and feel really, really, really well?
Well, this is exactly what I'm trying to reteach myself. Exactly. Because my entire existence up until this point has been about how effective can I be? How many things can I do? And how efficiently can I do
Mm,
them? Right? It was like about this like volume of things. And I'm grateful for that because it got me to this point. I would not be where I am if I didn't have that mindset up until now,
mm,
right? And that is not sustainable, at least for me, but I'm going to assume for a lot more people than me, for a long period of time with wellness, with
yes.
health. You can do it. You can do it. You can do everything forever, but you won't have health and you won't have
Mm,
happiness. You can't have all three of those at once. And where I'm at right now is realizing that, okay, I can do it all. I am capable of doing it all. But health and happiness are more important to me. And so I need to figure out how to do less
mm,
better. So that way I can be really good at what I am doing and feel as good as I can. Right. And it's this balance of how can I have all of
mm.
that? Right. And having all of that doesn't come with doing everything.
Yes.
And so, like, I was just telling you about this before we hit record, but I called Cos and he was about to get on an airplane and we were just chatting. And I was like, it is so stupid that things take longer than I've told myself that
Mm,
they take. And I was telling him that, like, for me, the thought of getting dressed, like picking out an outfit, putting it on, should take like 10 seconds. Like in my brain, I'm like, that doesn't even take any time. Like that doesn't even account for time in my getting ready in the morning. And then it always takes like at least 5 minutes and then I'm late and I'm very
mhm.
angry, right? Because I'm like, I can't believe it. I can't believe
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thing took time, right? And that's like a small, silly example, but I feel that way about a lot of things
Mm,
in my life. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, hold on here, which things are important right now. It's important for me to feel put together. Like I can't just be like pulling random crap out of my closet because I don't feel good like that, and then I don't show up well for my entire day, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time for me to figure out what I want to wear. Okay, if that's important, I need to build that time into my day, which means maybe I need to wake up earlier, which means maybe I need to go to bed earlier, which is like, okay, so where's the thing that needs to come
mm,
out? All right, maybe it's the TV show, maybe it's something that I'm working on late at night that I needed to do earlier in the day. Maybe it's delegating some sort of task that I have put in my day that takes up a lot of time so I can get to bed
mhm,
earlier, right? So I feel like I'm trying to refigure out what my
mhm.
priorities are and then refigure out how to live in this new way
Yes.
with all these new structured priorities. And it's very
Yes.
overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Like it's a lot. It's hard. And when people ask me like, "Oh, like what are you up to these days?" And I'm like, "Well, how we talked about this recently. I'm like, how do I explain that I'm like trying to figure out how to be? Like how do I explain that? I don't know."
You're like, are you the right person to have this conversation with me? Or are you like high or something? Like, can you just have this like weird existential talk with me?
Yeah, exactly. And it's been so challenging for me to not have like this like very tangible work to
Hmm.
talk about. Like I can talk about the podcast, I can talk about my writing, but other than that, there's not this like 9 to 5 like big project, you know? And so I'm like, well, I am
I would,
12. I don't know.
Maggie, I would rather hang out with a said, I would rather hear what the new sauce is that you're dipping your nuggets in than like half the shit we hear at these like stifled adult events. Like, I would rather sit at the kids' table and you show me like what the coolest new game is, or like, I'm really a condiment lover. So like, I want to know what we're dipping our nuggies in. But like,
Hmm.
I would rather know that than like this freaking like fancy 9 to 5 thing you did. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Like I'm so happy for you, and like I don't care that much. And it's not in a mean way. It's just I think when you get to a certain point of, call it like a what is the right word that I'm trying to say? a more like emotionally aware, like elevated lifestyle, in the sense that like you've done a lot of self growth and you've done a lot of work on yourself, you get to this place where you're like, I just want to go back to being 10 because I figured out how to do the self growth from that place of, like you said, Maggie, that story is really important to you. This silly little story that you keep saying about Cosmos, it's actually, in my eyes, it's not a silly little story. And I have to be careful because obviously therapy Meg like overlaps with regular Meg. So I told Maggie that, like, sometimes I can't help myself but notice themes. Like, that's what I'm trained on as a therapist. So that theme to me, when you say that story and you describe it as just like, oh, I'm so frustrated, I hear it and it lands for me as old Maggie in the past, whose mind was kind of in like fast forward mode, almost like a DVD player. It was in times 3 or times 4 mode. You always
Literally.
imagined that that's how fast you were getting ready. And then the byproduct of getting fast and ready like that made you be in that like anxious, hypervigilant state. So you didn't really notice the concept of time when we're in a state of hypervigilance or a state of anxiety or a state of quickness. Time is not, we're not in direct concept with time. So for those of you who
Yeah.
are listening who are like, I don't really understand what you're saying, picture this. Have you ever, and God, I probably catch it 3 times a year, which is so pathetic and like shows you all the growth I'm trying to do in the wellness front. Have you ever stopped what you were doing and looked up at the clouds? Have you ever stopped what you were doing and looked up at the stars? When you do, you will realize, I'm telling you, like, try it tonight. Like, go outside, look at the moon, look at the stars. The amount of slowness that happens, with the sky, with the clouds in the sky, nature isn't running around fast. Usually when nature's
Mm-hmm.
going fast, there's usually a problem. There's usually something wrong. When something's happening very fast and very intensely in nature, there usually means that there's an issue going on. We as
Yes.
humans live our lives in these fast-paced modes for many different reasons: family of origin reasons, societal reasons, motivation of ourselves and wanting to succeed reasons. We all do it for many reasons. And then you get to this like higher level of consciousness place and elevation as an emotional mature person, and you're like, holy fucking shit, I don't have to do that. Why am I doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Why can I be successful and still take my life slowly and enjoy it? I don't know. I'm going to try because I'd rather have some less money and more time to enjoy my life than reach this quote unquote, at least this is me, I'm now projecting onto all of you. You all may have your own thoughts in life, and I encourage you to live it to your own standard. But to me, if being super successful and having the money that I want and the home that I want and the relationships that I want and things like that, if that nice house comes at a cost to my well-being and my relationships and my time, I don't want it. I don't want it. Okay? If it comes at a cost, too high of a cost to my well-being, to where I don't have time to talk to my friends slowly and not rush through coffee with them, if I don't have time to sit with my husband at night and actually be with him and not just be like ships passing in the night, if I don't have time to go and take an hour out of my day to go to a workout class or get off my phone, I'm sorry, but if that comes at the cost of the big mansion, you keep your big mansion. Give me my little cottage in the woods, which Maggie knows is my fantasy. I really want to live in a little cottage, everybody. I really like a Tudor style home, by the way. So not that we're getting sponsored by any Tudor style homes, but just in case in the future, I'd really, really like a little fairy house. But I say all that to say, if it comes at the cost of my everyday wellness, keep it. I don't want it anymore. And I'm also bold enough to say, who the fuck told me that I had to choose one or the other?
Right. And it's this whole reconstruction of what the beliefs are,
Yes.
right? And it's like, okay, just because those beliefs currently exist does not mean that that's what we have to keep running on, right? So that's where I'm at of, reconstructing all of those beliefs and trying to figure those things out. And I agree, like there's always a cost to everything, right? There's always a cost, and we have to determine what level of cost we're willing
Yeah.
to pay, right? What level of cost are you willing to pay for certain things? And it can probably change at different points in life. right? But for me right now, I'm realizing that I don't need to be in that sped up way of living, right? Like how you said, when nature's moving really fast, there's something wrong. Well, yeah, I was moving really fast because there was something wrong. I felt unsafe all the time, right? And now I don't feel that way. And so I'm figuring out that I don't have to move as fast. But then that comes with it an entire reframe of my whole world, right? Because I don't know. I agree with you that when we're in that state of like hypervigilance and moving really fast, we're not in the same like stage of reality with time. But at the same time, when I'm in that state, I can move a lot faster. And I think that's what's really tripping me up right now is that when I am in that state, I can get things done so much faster. And when I'm now in this like new baseline, which is slower, I can't get things done as fast because I'm not moving as fast because I don't have to and I don't want to. But it's creating this new idea that I I feel like I have no idea what's
Yes.
going on. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like I have, because I'm so used to this speed of everything, now we're working at a slower speed of everything and everything feels warped and I'm like, what is real? I don't know.
Yes. That's a really wow. I'm not experiencing it in the same way, but I can imagine it. If anybody who's ever, this is a silly example, but it may resonate for some people. If you've ever worked in a job where you had to be really fast, like I used to bartend in college, I couldn't go from my super fast, high paced job to a slow bar, right? Because it would feel like
Right.
torture to go from super fast, quick, intense to super slow. It would be horrible for me. And so that's my example of how I can, think about how it must feel for you on an everyday basis, not a job of how do you go
Yeah.
from super fast, speedy? And in some ways, Maggie, I'm wondering, in some ways, it almost sounds, and I got to watch myself, guys. I'm getting a little therapy here. You're like hearing it, and I'm not trying to. But at the same time, I can't help but notice it that, like, it almost sounds like in some ways, part of that was your superpower in some ways. And it was also the thing that was a necessity. And what I wonder for you is, can you still appreciate that? Because it's a part of Maggie. It's still a part of you. It's probably always going to be a part of you. And you don't have to use that part all the time. So, can you call on super fast superhero Maggie who gets in there and races around and whizzes around to do whatever she wants to do? And knows that it's not your entire existence. True Maggie is in, I'm doing parts work now, everybody. This is what I'm doing. If you see a therapist, it's called parts work, IFS, internal family systems. I'm so sorry, Maggie. But that part of you now can relax a little bit and just come out when it wants to like play almost.
Yeah. And I'm very much in this right now. Like I do that too. I was just telling you before about how my middle school self, I feel like I have like my adult self who's coaching my middle school
Yes.
self, like to go through this the second time in a different way, you know? But I I think one of the things, and this is like very in the moment, pretty vulnerable, but, and like I said, this might change by the time we record again. But I think one of the things that holds me back from that is the fear that it'll go away forever because it always has been my
Mm-hmm.
superpower, right? And so now I'm afraid if I don't live like that, is it going to go away
Mm.
forever and I'm never going to have that anymore? Which logically I know is not the
Mm-hmm.
case. It's a skill. I've just trained it so well,
Sure.
right? And I can continue to nurture that skill without having to do it
Mm-hmm.
24/7. But that fear is there, right? There's this overwhelming fear that if I slow down, if I don't live in that way, then I will lose my superpower. It will be
Mm-hmm.
taken from me, right? And so then you get into like this tug of war battle of I know I need to let it go and I
Mm.
can't. And like not that I can't, but I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
can't, you know? And so yeah, I'm very in that right now. That's what I'm experiencing most of the time.
I am so grateful that you're able to articulate things so well when you're in them. It's hard a lot of times to, it's easier a lot of times to share something we went through after we've already been through it. But the mess in the middle is what people don't get to see. Right. So we
Yeah.
read the books after the people who've been through the stuff, and then we read it and it becomes like a helpful tool for us. We listen to the podcast typically after somebody's been through something, right? We always open up after
Mm-hmm.
something's happening because it feels messy and too fresh. It's almost like we want to learn all the lessons before we share them. It's almost like we want to make sure the canvas is pretty and tidied up before we present it as art. Whereas what you're doing today and what you're giving the trustees is, it's not pretty right now. In fact, it's actually very messy, and Maggie doesn't know which way she's going to go. And so I'm just really grateful and thankful that you were willing to let us into that messy middle, because there's so much power when you're in the middle of something, right? Like it's so much. So for example, like me sharing that today of like trying to learn for myself what everyday wellness is going to look like. It's not going to hit the same for you once I've already done the thing and figured out what everyday wellness looks like for me. I'm telling you right now, I have no idea what that looks like. I'm trying to learn what wellness looks like for Meg, right? I'm not coming to you 50 pounds lighter and saying, this is how it happened, right? I'm coming to you in the moment and saying, this is where I'm at. I don't exactly know where I'm heading, but I know the intention that I'm setting, and I trust, here we go, I trust myself enough to know that with that intention, I will get there. I don't know exactly when, I don't know exactly how, but the intention is there, and I trust myself enough to know that I will get there. And so for what you're saying today, Maggie, like, you don't necessarily know where you might be going, right? But you, adult Maggie, is going back in and coaching middle school Maggie, and almost like, this might make me cry. You're almost, adult Maggie is going back in with middle school Maggie and is instilling in her that like, no, you can trust yourself now too. While you're in middle school, while you're sweaty and, messy and beautiful and creative and crazy and whatever words you want to say, right? All the emotions that when I think of that age, you can trust yourself to move through this, and you can go in now as an adult and figure out what it means for Maggie to live when it's not by somebody else's design in a lot of ways.
That was beautiful.
Guys,
Thank
this is
you.
like a Christmas special /
appreciate
therapy
that.
session for both of us.
I know. You can't get anything better.
really
I mean, come
can't.
on. I appreciate that so much, and it's something I'm really trying to embrace because this is really fucking hard. It's so hard.
Maggie said a curse word. Maggie never curses. Oh my god.
I do curse, but not usually.
Not on the podcast. This is your first F-bomb, I think.
Not usually. Well, usually I'm talking on the radio, so we try not to use those on the radio.
That made my whole...
so it kind of just carries over.
Oh, I needed one F-bomb from Maggie for season 3, and she gave it to me.
One per season.
One per season, and that's when you know it's really fucking hard, is what she said.
Yeah. And
it's so real.
I appreciate you listening and everyone listening. And I think the last thing that I want to say about it is that if you feel in an unknown as well, like, you're not alone. It's okay. We're all there, and we're going to figure it out together.
We are. And the community piece, that's the best part, I think, that I'm taking away from this episode, and I think that the trustees will too, is like, we don't have to do it alone. I think a lot of times when we grow up, like I grew up feeling that a lot of the things I did was alone, and that made it really sucky and boring and hard. And the cool thing nowadays is that we know that we don't have to do it alone. We can do it in community. We can do it, scared and messy and all the things. And we don't have to do it by ourselves. And I know that that varies significantly from person to person. So I understand the privilege of saying that. And how do we call upon the resources that we do have to know that I'm not trying to do anything, well, a few things, I guess, totally by myself. But other than that, it's better with people.
Definitely.
Humans.
Yeah.
Look at the stars.
So that's
tonight,
what I'm working on.
And the clouds.
Yeah. Go look at the stars. Slow down a little bit. And if you feel uncomfortable, me too. Just let me know.
Come talk to us about it. We're right there with you.
Yes.
Oh.
But that's it, guys. Season 3 has come to a close. We've wrapped it up like a beautiful Christmas present and placed it under the tree with a lovely bow.
And what's that thing? And with that, the 2024 season has come to an end.
That's it. We will see you back in January. I'm not going to give you a specific date yet, just in case it changes. But in January, we'll be back, and we cannot wait to see you.
See you next year.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another episode of You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Our mission is to leave you with encouragement and tools to nurture your ability to trust yourself. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe and please share it with a friend. Then take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Your support helps our show grow, and for that, we are extremely grateful. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the episodes. Till next week, lots of trust and love, Meg and Maggie.